This is Tell Me What to Read, the podcast of Booktopia.com.au. I'm Nick Wasiliev, and once again, I'm delighted to be back for another book discussion. And this time we're back with yet another student special. This week, through the magic of the world of Zoom, we are hopping on the light rail and heading over to the University of New South Wales. And I'm delighted to be joined by members of the Advertising and Public Relations Society for UNSW. First up, Jamie Chambers, President of APRS. Hello, Jamie.
Hello, how are we doing?
Very, very good, thank you. And then secondly, Kerisha Parkes, Projects Team Director at APRS. Welcome, Kerisha.
Hi.
It's lovely to have you both, and it's great to chat books and everything with you. But first of all, let's dive into the stuff that you do with APRS. Jamie, what sort of stuff do you get up to with APRS?
Sure. So I guess to start off with the Advertising and Public Relations Society here at UNSW, we're a student-run organization under the umbrella of UNSW's ARC. We were founded back in 2013 when I was a wee boy in year 6, but I joined as marketing subcommittee in 2020, what a year, and then vice president external last year, and then here I am president today. Basically what we do is provide events for our members and with exclusive insights from industry professionals, such as later on today, recording on a Tuesday, we do have our careers panel where we've got about we have 4 guests coming on from Afterpay, Arnott's, a couple other media agencies as well, who are going to basically tell us how their journey into the industry came about and what they enjoy about the industry, and basically entice some other people to get into it. As well as the other part of things that we do is social. So we do encourage all our members to meet other media students, people from other degrees and faculties, and basically provide a really holistic experience to make all of our uni experiences more enjoyable.
I love it. So it sounds like you do a lot for many uni students or students doing kind of advertising, public relations, media. This is a really awesome organization. For example, if you want to make contacts, you want to meet people that you know, and you also want to get a feel for some sort of practical work of putting your degree to actual use. Certainly,
yeah. I think it was last year through our events, we actually had 4 students end up getting jobs or internships as a direct result of the contacts that they got from the events, which was really spectacular to see, the physical impact that we've had as an organization on people's lives, careers.
I love it. Kerisha, I know you work as the projects team director. So what are some of the stuff like the day-to-days that you get up to, particularly on campus at UNSW?
So this term, our projects team has mostly been focusing on doing a lot of video content. We make a lot of content that's funny, engaging, but also kind of relevant to what media students would want to know about. Yeah, sounds like it's a lot of fun and a great place where people can go and hang out and talk about all sorts of media and also get in touch with people within the know. So in terms of upcoming stuff happening on campus, because I know that it's been a very slow transition back to campus for a lot of universities, not just UNSW, what are some of the fun, exciting events that you have coming up as part of APRS?
Sure. So I think our biggest, most flagship event that's going to be happening at the early term 2. So if you don't know, UNSW does a trimester system, so that'll be around about mid-year. We are doing a inter-faculty camp between ourselves, the UNSW Economic Society, and the Digital Society at UNSW. That camp, whilst it is very exciting, unfortunately at this time it is sold out. So I don't know if I should promo it too hard. But we're really looking forward to doing that one come term 2. The other thing we do have next week is we are holding a pub crawl in collaboration with the UNSW Marketing Society. So we'll be hitting the streets of Sydney City with a couple other drink deals, meet some friends, have a great time, and have a great night. As well as, of course, the careers panel that I mentioned earlier that will be happening later today. So again, won't go too much into it.
Well, it sounds absolutely amazing, and I think a lot of folks over at UNSW should definitely go and check you out if they haven't already. And in regards to that fun little adventure, well, it might be sold out, but there's always next year. So you can always go and check it out for yourself.
And future events. We got plenty more coming in the year. So
amazing.
Look out for.
Yeah. So let's talk about books, because we are in fact a book podcast, and that's what we get up to. I'll throw to you first, Kerisha. What sort of books do you go for? Are you someone who is very dedicated? You're all about studying the uni texts and stuff like that, or are you just like, I just want books for goddamn escapism because I read enough during my student day-to-day?
Yeah, basically the second one. Like, as a media student, we have a lot of like readings like every week that we have to do, and the type that I like to read for like my personal pleasure is like fantasy, like romance, young adult fiction, like all that feels good stuff where you don't really have to think too hard. You sort of like feel like you're in a lot better world.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's as someone who personally will admit that before I came to university, I considered myself an absolutely terrible reader. There are a few things more enjoyable than being able to actually just look at this text that you're reading for uni and going, oh my God, I hate this. I can't do this any longer. And then suddenly going off and exploring another world instead. So vibing hard. Jamie, are you the same, or are you a dedicated media book devourer?
I think I definitely agree with when it's assigned reading and you have to sit down and then you have to do it. And it's like, and you're looking at the page and you go, oh, 20 pages. Oh, the humanity. Goodness me. But then if you're doing it out of like your own discretion, and it's like, I could very easily read the same article just in my spare time and be like, oh, this is really interesting. But then there's something about the cloud of this is now assigned and I have to read it. And it's like, oh, put me to sleep. But I think I don't swing too much towards a fiction. I do in like my own personal reading that's outside of the uni stuff. I quite like the nonfiction stuff. And despite my degree, I do actually quite enjoy some science stuff. I almost did genetics as my uni degree, and I love reading about that sort of stuff, as well as I don't know, just general sociology. That's right.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Let's dive into the books that you are both reading and enjoying this week. And Kerisha, I'm going to throw to you first. What have you brought along for us to get our teeth into in our book discussion podcast this week?
Well, I guess there's two books that I was looking at sharing with you guys. So first one is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This one is actually one that I got as a recommendation of Book Talk.
Yes.
I don't know if you're
proud of this. Praise Book Talk. We praise Book Talk. Yes, please.
I love Book Talk so much. Literally, like almost all my recent recommendations of books are just from Book Talk. This community on TikTok is so good. Yeah, like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is actually outside of like my normal reading range, because I don't know, I would consider it as like a historical fiction, which is actually something I would normally not read at all. But it was written just like so well that it was still really, really compelling story, and like I just couldn't put it down.
So I have full context here. I actually have no idea what The Seven Wives of Evelyn Hugo is about, having heard so much about it and having had it like driven into me all the time of, this is the book that's going nuts, you need to check this out. For anyone who is not familiar, can you give us like a barroom pitch for what it's about?
Yeah, it's actually called The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
That's the ones, yes.
So I guess it's about this lady, Evelyn Hugo. She's like a big superstar in like Hollywood. I can't remember the exact time frame. I think it's like 1950s or something like that. And basically, like, she's this big star and she's nearing like the end of her life, and she's asked this journalist who's not really any big name in the media sector, but this journalist Monique, she's asked her specifically to write like her autobiography. So the book kind of has the two perspectives of this journalist interviewing Evelyn, asking her about her life and all of that, and then it also goes into the perspective of like actually listening to Evelyn's whole life story basically, and you kind of go through like how she got from like a very, very poor situation into that like Hollywood fame, and like the 7 husbands she's had in between, but it's not really about the husbands, if that makes sense.
It never should be. Never should be. I'm also excited because it's also being adapted. Actually, it's going to be, there's Netflix are actually going to adapt this book as well, which is even more exciting. That's how you know that the book has made stuff. It's good stuff because Netflix is getting on the train. I love it, and we've heard about this book pretty much nearly every single podcast that we've done. You know, with people who are fascinated with book talk, it is everywhere. You cannot escape it, and it is there for good reason. What's the other book that you've brought along for this week?
Yeah, the other book is actually called What If It's Us? It's not as popular book. I actually first read it before Book Talk came around, so it was an original find.
She's a trendsetter, an influencer.
I see it.
But yeah, this one's a really like feels good book. It's a standalone, and so I find it like really easy to read like multiple times, and like in between when I might not be in such like big series that other like fantasy books can be in. It's basically a cute gay romance. So 2 guys meet each other by chance at a New York post office, and then they get separated and they don't even know each other's names. And one of the guys is like, damn, that guy is cute. I really want to find him again. And so it's like the journey of like once they find each other, like how will things actually work? Like, is it fate or is it like not? They're like 2 very different like backgrounds, like economically, culturally, everything like that. And like, it's just really cute in that, yeah, it's got a very different perspective. Like, I really like how, I guess, more inclusivity is coming into like fiction in the last several years. And like, I'm straight myself, but I still really enjoy reading this as just like a feels good book.
You're absolutely right. One of the things that we have really loved just in the book space is actually just not just with YA, but also just kids books in general, like children and kids books. So many of them are no longer focusing on the traditional quote unquote perspectives of love. A lot of them are really, you know, opening up and examining queer love and showing it as a very normal thing. And the fact that there are lots of YA books that are really good. There are so many fantastic YA books, you know, kids and YA books, and you know, even in broader books in general that are bringing this front and center. I think is awesome. And yet another one. I love it. I love that there's another one out there with you know, What If It's Us? Amazing. I love those recommendations. Thank you so much, Kerisha.
No worries.
So before we jump over to Jamie and hear what books he's been reading and enjoying, we are in fact sponsored. Yes, we have a sponsored book this week, which I find super exciting. And sticking with the theme of love, the book is called Wedding Bush Road by David Francis. That is our sponsored book of the week. When Daniel, a young Australian lawyer based in Los Angeles, is called back to his family's farm, he has to contend not only with a philandering father and a sick mother, but also the burden of memory. He arrives in the heat of his parents' conflict with Sharon, sometime tenant and his father's ex-lover, who is now squatting on family land. As Daniel is increasingly drawn to Sharon, tensions spark events that will change them all. With a keen eye for the Australian landscape and set against the workings of a rural horse farm, Wedding Bush Road is a stunning novel about the choices we make, the regrets that linger, and the unquestionable, inevitable pull of home. It is our sponsored book of the week, Wedding Bush Road by David Francis, and you can check it out right now at booktopia.com.au. Links are in the description. All right, last but certainly not least, I will turn to our second guest, which is Jamie. Jamie, what books have you brought along for us to discuss this week?
Sure. So my first pick this week did not come from BookTok. Instead, it came from a bit of a weird connection, but I was hanging out by the Fremantle Surf Club when I was back home in Perth over the summer holidays, and then I ended up chatting to the club's photographer, and then he's like, "Oh, so you study media, right? Yeah, yeah. There's this great book I reckon you should check out." And I went, "Oh, okay, sounds great, cool, cool." But then I took him up on the advice and I was like, "Okay, let's go check it out." He did kind of pitch it to me and sell it to me in almost a very similar fashion to how I'm going to describe it. But basically, the book by Stephen Kotler, Stealing Fire, is basically it's a nonfiction that explores altered states of minds and just altered consciousness. And it's not in the sense of like, okay, we're just talking about psychedelics here, but it's actually talking about how the Navy SEALs, Buddhists, and Google uses like altered states of consciousness to increase efficiency and creativity. And they found basically there's a little section on it, which is from some researchers finding the biological reason for spirituality, or like in the spiritual sense. And I've read myself a little bit of a quote here, which is the researchers found extreme concentration can cause the right parietal lobe to shut down. And when this happens, we no longer distinguish the self from the other. And that's basically the neurological, biological reason beneath spirituality, and like how it was able to, that's why they feel like they're connected to the world around them and almost feel that life presence. And I think that's such a really amazing, cool thing. I guess in practicality, I found it also very interesting because they talk about this thing called flipping the switch or group flow, which they use for the Navy SEALs. And there's this whole section on per Navy SEAL, they spend hundreds of thousands on just the selection process, on just figuring out whether or not you're going to get in. And then it goes to actually training them. But to actually figure out whether or not you're going to get in, they need to figure out, are you going to fit in with the group flow and the group dynamic? Because if you're not able to make those quick decisions with the group, then that you're not making the cut. But it's just, what they described it as a group flow in a similar weighing of the spirituality, where you feel connected to, spirituality is you feel connected to everything else around you. Within the group flow, you're actually connected to the people around you, the team that's with you. So they talk about in the Navy SEALs context, obviously you need to make very quick, snappy decisions as a team. And often that doesn't require verbal communication. It just needs to be automatic. But they also talk about it in Google and IT and Silicon Valley and creative teams that really need to solve huge technical issues, and they need the creativity to get there. And funny enough, instead of being like, "Oh, bro, just take drugs, that'll get you to a different state of consciousness," they referenced kite surfing and surfing as being able to, or just anything that can get your heart racing and can shut down your frontal lobe to stop overthinking things, to just start going with things, can actually really help. And I think that's just a really cool concept that I would love to, include that a bit more into my life and just make sure things are staying exciting so you are able to access those, altered states of consciousness.
So you're basically saying it's the self-help book to end all self-help books. You're basically saying all the other self-help books are doing it wrong. You just shortcut this way, and Funny
enough, I think that's the blurb. It's actually not too far off of what they say.
No.
It's this is the shortcut to.
I'm going to Google this and see if that's actually the case. Have you tried it out? Have you been able to actually successfully get this shortcut?
Sure. I think if you took it at obviously not a Navy SEAL level, but at a smaller level of you can kind of feel that sense when you're playing sport. If you're in a group dynamic, when you're trying to come up with a solution to a problem, I guess if you're playing sport, there is a certain point if you're in a really good team, you're not really you don't have to be yelling at each other, "Hey, you go here." You just already know. Yeah, I know that Kerisha, my netball team, is going to be standing on my left in 2 seconds, and you don't have to think about it. You just do it. So it doesn't have to be the big picture stuff, but I think those small things is almost like in a mindfulness sense, it's cool to recognize when those part of your brain is shutting down and you start thinking about those things.
I love it. That's so cool. It sounds like I haven't been doing life properly, and this is the book and this is the book to help you out in that time. Amazing. I love it. What else have you brought along?
So my second one, I guess in more of the spirit of media and I guess less so advertising, but advertising could fit into it. Definitely public relations is our good friend Noam Chomsky and his book, Manufacturing Consent. It is one that has been part of our uni readings, was part of my high school readings for media, but it's one that I wouldn't say resonates or makes me cheerful because it is a pretty almost terrifying prospect of basically, he talks about the propaganda model and how mass media communication is able to, I believe it's from a different author, but the quote is, whilst the media cannot tell you what to think, they can influence what you think about.
Yes.
And that has been the topic sentence for far too many of my essays. But basically, yeah, so Noam kind of goes into a bit of how if you're able to frame the conversation around, I guess I'm going to avoid the political stuff, but I don't know, let's go for the generally acceptable one, climate change. Instead of talking about whether it would turn into a conversation of whether or not climate change is happening rather than what we should do to actually combat it. And if you're able to frame the conversation away from, again, you're not having to think about it. I don't have to tell you what to think about how to combat climate change because we're not even talking about that. It's not even in the conversation. We just need to focus, oh, should we do anything? How much is it going to cost? I don't know, maybe we should talk about that. And I guess through the lens of mass media, it's a particular problem in Australia because we do have those good old Murdoch newspapers and Nine Fairfax, which do control a conglomerate of a lot of the mass media and the mainstream forms. When there's very few, like, I guess, diverse, there's a lot more independent news outlets now, or with online stuff, but it's not cutting through the same way. You can really shape what the conversation is about. And I think it's very relevant to my degree and why I've chosen to bring it today, but I think it's both fascinating and terrifying.
It is incredibly fascinating and incredibly terrifying. I love this book. It's just the examination of the power structures that the media space also functions within. You can see it these days. Basically, whoever has the power controls the means of information and determines how the debate is framed, which I think is kind of one of the big takeaways from this book. Sure. It is terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. I mean, look, it's something that you need to know, and I think everyone should read it at some point in their life. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's a positive read. But at least at the end, when I finished it the first time, I was like, God, I need to go and do something about this, or like try and make some small change that I can. It's a fascinating structure or frame to study media in, the way we process information. Thank you so much, Jamie. That was like some seriously amazing books, and I also love the fact that you've brought some media books along as well, to discuss the world that we're in right now, but also more importantly, how important media actually is in this day and age, and why it's important that we look after it and make sure we do stuff properly. So before we finish our podcast for today, I have brought along some serious, silly, booked out questions and strange, silly, hypothetical scenarios around books. And I'm going to pose them to both of you to have a bit as a fun kind of way to finish. What is the perfect idea of a night with a book for you?
The perfect idea of a night with a book? Okay, this one might be like a little too classic, but I'm into like those little like romance fiction books. So I would definitely want to be like in a nice big comfy bed to start with. The second key ingredient is a very nice steaming cup of hot chocolate. And then thirdly is a good book to curl up with and read in bed. And then fourthly is a nice little lamp. I feel like a big room light just doesn't give the vibes. Like you need that little reading lamp that just like lights up your book perfectly. And Yeah, that would be my perfect reading night.
It's a classic for a reason. Like, it's a classic for a reason. There's few better places in the world than reading a book in bed or on the couch or in a hammock.
And yes, sorry, it would definitely have to be raining outside. I forgot
Yes.
to mention that.
Yes.
It has to be raining outside.
Yes. I will say it's one of the big positives of all. I mean, obviously the rain has been continuous and nonstop and horrendous, and it's ruined our summer and, you know, affected a lot of people. But the rain in the chance to like sit indoors and read a book while it's raining outside has been one tiny joy that has kind of come out of it, which is absolutely lovely. Oh, you're making me want to clock off early and go lie in bed and read a book. Jamie, are you in a similar mindset, or do you have a particular other vibe with your book reading that you go for?
I think staying on theme this episode, I'm quite the opposite. I think I'm very much a summer guy. I love the summer, I love the beach, and I think I would probably, I guess, because as you were speaking, I was thinking this through. But I think mine would be very much, it's a nice warm, not like excruciatingly hot, but it's a nice warm summer afternoon, maybe by a pool or by a beach as the sun sets over, just somewhere with a view in the background, with a cold drink in hand. Then I kept thinking, right, which made me double back on this a little bit, which is we're now talking about summer night mosquitoes, bugs, and then it's gonna get dark. So maybe reconsidering, and I might have to come over to, I guess, that warmer feel. I think just anywhere, if it's a nice big comfy couch, it's really cushioned, it's fluffed up. We're gonna put the lighting will be very ambiance. We have some candles flickering, a nice big fluffy blanket that goes over the top of it. I'm a terrible book reader in that it's very relaxing, so it ends up putting me to sleep quite quickly. So the remedy to this is I'm going to make sure I'm not in bed, because that's too tempting. So I will knock off if that happens. So we're going to say it's like in the living room. You got to, if we're in winter, let's have a fireplace going.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and then I've never seen the snow, but I imagine it'd be very nice to have it snowing outside.
Oh yeah.
So, like almost like a cabin lodge.
Oh.
So I know I started with a beach there, and I really took a turn. But
you've gone like 360. Like you've taken me like to a beautiful beach in Kotler or somewhere, and now we're back in in the snowy mountains and with snow outside. I would have said yes to both of them. You get double points if we were marking this, but we're not marking this. So I appreciate that. I respect.
Sorry, my wham really needs it right now, so we'll take the marks.
Second question. Sticking with the weird hypotheticals, you are stuck on a desert island, and you can only take three books with you while you are waiting for help. What books can you take? And book series do not count. So no Harry Potter. Or you can say Harry Potter, but you can only pick one, you can't take the whole series with you. I'll throw to Jamie first. Jamie, I can see that you're puzzling, and so I'm going to throw you under the bus. You're going first.
Okay. So I think I'm going to try, I'll give two answers, and then I'm going to give a cop-out answer, which is, I think I'm going to take my boy Gnome with me. Maybe not Manufacturing Consent, but I'll take one of his other books just because it is a lengthy one, so it's going to help pass the time. The second, I'm going to take a comfort read, which I'm going to say that comfort read is going to be Hunger Games: Catching Fire. It's one of the first series that I really got into as a kid. Well, I guess young adult. Let's not go too young enough. And then my third one is a book I haven't read, because I think I need a bit of variety, and I can read the same thing over and over, but that's going to do us no good. So that's my cop-out answer. I bring something that I haven't read. Maybe I'll take today's sponsor, was it Wedding Bush Road, with me. Get that.
Yes, Wedding Bush Road. Oh, hell yes. That's a good decision. Oh, yes, please. I like your attitude. I like the approach you're taking taking something something comforty, but also throwing yourself out there a little bit. I like it. I respect that. Kerisha, are you in the same mindset, or are you all gonna? I get a sense. I don't want to put you in a box, but considering your love of YA and everything, I'm assuming we're about to be hit with a YA extravaganza.
Yes. Actually, wait. We're not doing this live. So I have a book on my bookshelf that I really love to grab in like 2 seconds because I've forgotten the title.
That's okay.
The joys of not live. Welcome to the halftime report. Courtside with Nick. Nick, how do you think it's going?
What do I think is going? Oh, she's back. Sorry. Yes, she's back on. The end of the halftime report.
It'll be 2 seconds. So I got this book when I was actually in primary school. It's called Australian Animals Are Smarter Than Jack. And basically, it's a collection of short stories, like real life stories that like people have submitted of like their animals like being really smart in different situations. And it's like really, really heartwarming because a lot of them are like the animals like doing something for their owners. And every time I go traveling, I take this book with me because it's so small, like it's so thin, but it's also like different stories within. So like it's always like new to me in a way. And it's just really cute.
You'd on a beach, on a desert island, you'd need something cute. I respect that.
Exactly.
I respect that. That's a good one. So would you just take that book, or would you? That is what you would get you through.
No, this is just my first choice. Like if I could only take one, I would take this book.
I love it.
But now that I have 3, my other ones would definitely be within the YA section. So my second one would actually be Graceling. It's a standalone-ish because it's got like a sequel, but also like you don't have to read the sequel-ish. Like they're in the same world, but they're not the same characters, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's called Graceling, and basically I really like it because the main character is a really badass girl who can hold her own. She's got like assassin skills and all of that, and we love those badass main female characters. And she's got powers.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
And my third book would probably just be like a feel-as-good romance. Maybe just the one I mentioned before. What If It's Us?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, what a great list. Thank you. Geez, I should introduce you to our kids and YA category manager, Sarah McDouling, because she'd be vibing hard right now with every single pick that you've gone with, and I love it. Next question, our penultimate question. You're in a lecture that's been going on for 3 hours, and you're tired / bored / amazed that the lecturer can speak in one single monotone voice for so long. Do you read your textbook? And if so, what is the book you read to pass the time? Or do you have a sneaky other book that you bring into class that you hide behind your normal textbook that you would read instead? And if so, what book would that be? Kerisha, I'll throw to you first.
If I was really bored with the class, like why would I want to read the textbook as well? I think maybe I'd read it later. I try to be a good student like that, but probably not during class because that's just too try hard. So yes, I would be reading a different book. Since I don't like use handwritten notes or anything, it would probably be on my computer screen. It's a lot easier to hide that way as well.
Smart.
Yes. You got to think smart when you're not paying attention in class. So it would probably be just whatever I was reading at the time. Currently, I'm actually reading A Court of Thorns and Roses. So maybe that one.
Oh, yes, some Sarah J. Maas. Yes, please. Thank you. Oh, Great pick. Yes. And I love the fact that you're reading it on your computer, because if you weren't, that is a brick. You'd be bringing a brick in, which wouldn't be very subtle at all. So smart move to put it on the computer. I like that. Jamie, are you the teacher's pet? Would you be reading the textbook, or would you be escaping?
I think I'm in a similar thought to Kerisha, in that if I'm finding the lecture boring, I do not want to be also looking down the textbook. I think the most realistic answer is actually I'd be on my laptop looking at the Facebook. But for this book podcast, I'd probably say your answer. I want a bit of a pick me up. I probably want something comedic. I think I would go with Hamish and Andy's Power Moves.
Oh, yes. Nice. I like that.
What if you start laughing during the lecture because you're reading the book?
How big's the lecture hall? That's the second part. If it's like 10 of us, okay, maybe not. But if it's a big lecture hall, I think we've all very much seen the people who I don't know. I don't even know what they're doing there. They just rocked up and they're just sitting on some flash game, or they're just very much not paying attention. They don't. They're doing the lecture regardless, you know.
You could get away with a mild chuckle or two if you had a massive lecture hall. I approve. Oh, I love it. I respect your honesty, because I know that I would be like, I would try and read the textbook or read another book, but I would find myself just going to sleep. I would just fall asleep. That would be my issue. It's the ultimate. If you've had a bad night's sleep before, a 2-hour lecture is the perfect solution to make you go to sleep.
Oh yeah, and if you're reading a book you like at least you look awake.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Final question. So say this whole university and, public relations, advertising degree, everything doesn't work out and you end up getting kicked out of university. But you get the option to go to a fictional school. Which fictional school would you go to? And you can't have Hogwarts.
You're making me cry.
I know, everyone has always responded to this question. Oh, I'd go to Hogwarts. So I'm being mean just to you guys and saying you can't have Hogwarts. Where would you go instead? Other magical schools are open, by the way. I'm just saying Hogwarts, you can't have Hogwarts.
I actually have an answer for this one, since it looks like Jamie is still thinking.
I am struggling.
The great thing about YA fiction is that a lot of them are set in magical, fantastical schools. So I have plenty of options to go with that's not Hogwarts.
Yes, please.
But it's from the Madoran Chronicles. The first book in the series is called Arcane. I think that's what you said. Yeah. But yeah, their school there is so cool. Okay, they have this thing called like a playroom, and like the playroom is like basically like a very comfy room with a giant TV, but it's not TV because there's VR headsets, and you get to watch movies or play games, and it's like extremely like realistic. And that just sounds so cool to me.
Oh yes, that sounds like heaven. Thank you. What would you study there? Can you study anything at this school? I have no idea of the context, but would you just go there, do what you got to do, and then be like, yep, I'm educated now, done.
I mean, the school had like normal subjects, I think, but then they also had cool subjects that were related to like the people's like gifts in this like their magical powers type stuff. So yeah, like, they had this one class that was kind of just teaching you like life skills and like how to be stealthy and cool like that. So that would be my favorite class.
Oh yes, please. Oh, what a great pick. Jamie, can you do one better than that?
No. I can't think of a school to save my life. Desperately Googling right now for like something that's like, oh right, that one. It's not coming to me.
Well, if you want, you can come with me to Asgard. So I probably like you could do like.
Okay.
I like myself. We do have Marvel books and such, so I'd include that within a fictional universe. And even if it's just a normal school at Asgard, in Asgard you're basically a god. So I would go to Asgard.
Or would it be one of those fish out of water stories where everyone else is a god and you're not? Yeah. So then you gotta learn to get along at school, and then everyone's flying around and.
Yeah, that's true. But part of me would still just be like, well, I want to see how cool Asgard is.
That's
Because
true. It's literally the heavens, you know.
yeah, just
I'll steal that pick. I'll take Asgard.
you can come with me to Asgard. I appreciate that. Thank you. I would love to keep chatting to you, but unfortunately, we are right out of time. Thank you so much, JB and Kerisha. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you both and hearing about what the Advertising and Public Relations Society for UNSW gets up to. It's been a pleasure having you on Tell Me What to Read today.
Thank you very much for having us on. It's been a great time. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you.
So for all of our listeners, you can check out the awesome shenanigans that the APRS gets up to in the description. I'll include a link to all of their socials that you can check out. And if you need books, we currently have a Back to Uni sale at Booktopia. So you can get all of your books and texts right now using our textbook finder that we have. It's only for a limited time, so be sure to get on it. Risk it for the biscuit. You'll have some fun there. Add to that as well, you can also, if you just don't want textbooks and you just want to buy any books, it can be any book, whether it be texts or books that you need to escape from texts. We've got this website, booktopia.com.au. It's a good website. You should check it out. Go buy a book, help me keep a job, and everything will be wonderful. So stay tuned for our episode on Friday, which is coming up, where we'll be discussing the announcement of the Stella Prize shortlist for 2022, which will be super exciting. Thank you for listening, and never stop reading.